Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Katie Lamont, and with me is Roxanne Huey, and together we are leading TNDC as interim co-CEOs. We're so pleased to have you with us this beautiful day to celebrate the grand reopening of the Ambassador and Ritz hotels. Yeah, exactly. This day has been a long time coming, and it is so wonderful to share it with all of you who helped make it happen. As many of you know, TNDC recently experienced a tragic loss with the sudden passing of our CEO, Maurilio Leon. It's deeply meaningful that our first ribbon cutting without him is on the pavilion of this historic building. The bricks of the Ambassador have witnessed pain, suffering, and loss. And they have also seen care, compassion, restoration, and joy. We hold an amazing tenant talent show here every summer, right where you all are standing, and it's one of my favorite things about TNDC. To preserve the life of the Ambassador and the Ritz as supportive and mindful homes where people live and develop community with their neighbors and with the people that work here, this is part of Maurilio's enduring vision of providing stable homes for all members of our community. I'd like to read a few words spoken by Maurilio about the Ambassador and follow with a moment of silence in his remembrance. He said, "The Ambassador holds a rich and cherished history in the heart of San Francisco. During the 1980s and 90s, it served as a vital sanctuary for numerous AIDS patients, extending compassion and support to those who were without means to care for themselves or connect with support networks. We take great pride in continuing its enduring legacy by preserving it as affordable housing for our community." Let's take a moment. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to get this ribbon cutting started by inviting our District 5 Supervisor, Dean Preston, to say a few words.
Thank you, Katie and Roxanne, and thank you all for being here. And I want to first just start by acknowledging what a difficult time this is for the TNDC team with the passing of Maurilio. And thank you all for pushing forward and honoring his legacy, of which this reopening of the Ambassador and the Ritz is definitely a part. I also want to say I'm really thrilled that Katie and Roxanne are at the helm, two incredible leaders, and we're looking forward to continuing to partner with them and TNDC. This is very exciting. To be here at this opening. I have the honor and privilege of representing the Tenderloin in City Hall. I wish I could take credit for all this, but there was this thing called redistricting in 2022. So the plans here were actually underway before I was even representing the district. So I feel like I'm kind of cheating coming in at the ribbon cutting and celebrating work that definitely predated me here in the district. But I got my start as a housing lawyer here in the Tenderloin, have been in and out of pretty much every SRO, and as someone who represented tenants in SROs, mostly in the privately owned ones, when they weren't up to code and when tenants needed repairs, I can tell you the huge difference between some of the poorly maintained, dilapidated old SROs here in the Tenderloin and buildings like this that actually get the care, the renovation, and the supportive services to make these units real homes, safe, decent, habitable, and supported homes here in the Tenderloin. Our SROs here in the Tenderloin are a huge part of why this community in the Tenderloin continues to be a place, and one of the few places in San Francisco where low-income people can afford to live. And it is really exciting to see this kind of attention and love and funding poured into making sure that these homes will remain low-income housing for years to come, thanks to the hard work of TNDC with support from the city. And I want to thank and acknowledge Dana Adams and Mayor's Office of Housing who are here, and also other partners, including U.S. Bank and others who you will hear from. But looking behind me at the ambassador, I think one thing that I'm struck by is I've never seen this kind of rehab. The combination of old and new here, I think it's just fantastic, right? And looking at the exposed brick and the historic building being maintained in this way, but being updated so that folks who need affordable housing have top-notch affordable housing in our district. We're proud to be a part of that and looking forward to supporting not just the reopening here of the Ambassador and the Ritz, but really expanding even in tough budget times to make sure that we are supporting the renovation and expansion of our SRO housing stock here in the Tenderloin. So thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you again, Katie and Roxanne. And I don't know if I'm turning the mic back to you or whether I'm turning it over to our next speaker. Am I turning it over to our next speaker? All right, I am pleased to welcome Lisa Gutierrez from U.S. Bank. Thank you so much. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. And I want to start by sending our deepest condolences to TNDC on the loss of your fearless leader, Murillo, but I can't think about a better way to celebrate his honor and his legacy in affordable housing with this beautiful day and this beautiful grand opening. I'm Lisa Gutierrez from U.S. Bancorp Impact Finance, a subsidiary of U.S. Bank, and we're thrilled to be part of today's event. For the Ambassador Hotel project, we provided nearly $70 million in construction lending and nearly $67 million in tax credit equity. At a time when other financial partners hesitated to move forward with an investment due to the complexities, U.S. Bank leaned in, and that seems to be part of our natural course, and I'm proud of our team, some who could not be here today, so I'm not nearly going to take all the credit that it took to close this transaction. It was a real labor of love between the TNDC team, Mayor's Office of Housing, and U.S. Bank. We've specialized in complex developments like this for over 30 years. The coordination to get to the finish line was intense, from understanding the relocation plan of this vulnerable resident population to aligning with the many public funding sources and rental subsidies, all while managing the building rehabilitation needs of this beautiful historic building. TNDC and Impact Finance have worked together for several years. In that time, we've provided nearly $120 million in financing and $67 million in equity. And regionally in San Francisco's larger 5-county metropolitan area, Impact Finance has provided $1.36 billion in construction lending and $1.40 billion in equity. Since 2005, the U.S. Bank Foundation has donated approximately $265,000 to TNDC. In fact, we're looking forward to supporting the organization's 43rd anniversary this May through sponsorship and attendance at the special event, and we hope we will see all of you there. We believe everyone deserves a place to call home, and in collaboration with many of you, we are truly making a difference in this community and across the state. Our efforts, care, and creativity going forward will be critical as we continue to make affordable housing in our communities a priority. Congratulations to all who are involved in bringing this transformational development and get it the well-deserved refresh for the residents who call the Ambassador Hotel home. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today to celebrate the grand opening of the historic Ambassador and Ritz hotels. My name is Hang Nguyen, and I'm an assistant project manager with the housing development team. I've had the privilege to work on both projects during my tenure here at TNDC. Working on these complicated, hybrid, and scatter-site projects really helped me understand and appreciate the hard work that goes into providing affordable housing. I still remember the first time I attended a punch walk at the Ritz. Mind you, I've never worked in construction before. The Gelfand team handed me a roll of blue tape and said, "Put a piece of tape where you see imperfections." I was so excited because I might not know construction terms very well, but I'm very good at spotting mistakes. In that moment, I knew being a project manager was for me. There were many people I want to give my thanks to: the design teams, Gelfand Partners Architects, Paula Taggart Architects, our construction managers, Joe Blanco and Chris Rivera, our historic architect, Ferric Knapp, our TNDC property management and tenant community services teams, and our countless consultants on the projects. It took so many smart, creative people to bring these rehabs to fruition. I would like to thank the DNH construction team, who from day one were ready to help us problem solve the uniquely difficult financing and construction issues at these buildings. Wynn, Taryn, and the rest of the Ritz DNH team were fantastic partners on an extremely difficult rehab. And now that I've been at TNDC for a few years, I recognize just how special it was to have an all-woman project management and construction team on the Ritz for a time. Thanks to their hard work, the Ritz Hotel now has an expanded community room, totally rehab common spaces, and new windows. The DNH team on the Ambassador was especially patient with us as we worked through so many potential ways to seismically strengthen the building. I would like to thank Jonathan, Scott, and the whole team for their incredible teamwork. You had a creative solution for every construction challenge we had. The enormous steel structure behind me is part of their seismic upgrade work, and I still don't know how they fit all that steel into the building. Finally, I would like to thank Chris Cummings, Emily Van Loon, and Alberto Benaham, for our director and associate directors of housing development, for their superb leadership on the projects and for being amazing mentors. Thank you for spending hours to explain the intricacy of the financing structure of the Ambassador and the Ritz to me and many others. After seeing both projects to completion, I can tell you that there's nothing more fulfilling than having tenants move back in and seeing how much they appreciate their new spaces. And that's it. Next, we have Kevin Liu, TNDC's Overdose Prevention Outreach Coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you, Hang. Good morning, everyone. My name's Kevin Liu, and I'm a member of TNDC's community organizing team as our Overdose Prevention Outreach Coordinator. You may be wondering what that means. Well, an important aspect of my work is meeting with residents and our SROs to inform them on the challenges associated with preventing overdoses in San Francisco, as well as facilitating discussions around folks' experiences and their overall sort of understanding of drug overdoses and what that looks like as far as solutions that they can come up with to this problem. And, that includes meeting with residents in this very building. And we also outreach to folks in the surrounding community, as well as the peers of residents in our buildings. Recently, we've actually partnered with the Department of Public Health to kickstart a project to install boxes that hold Narcan on each of the floors of our 3 SRO buildings, including here at the Ambassador Hotel. With the help of the residents that I'm meeting with, I hope to collect survey and interview responses to understand how to better support and resource residents to reverse and prevent overdoses. What inspires me in part to do this work is the legacy of Hank Wilson, who operated the Ambassador as a de facto hospice at the height of the AIDS epidemic. The sick who were otherwise turned away from hospitals were welcomed here, as well as extraordinary caregivers, doctors, nurses, family members, volunteers. And these caring providers, they really learned the culture of the folks that stayed here and spoke to them as partners in care, full of compassion and without shame attached to sexual orientation, gender identity, or drug use. So this era of the hotel was truly about caregivers finding ways to reduce the suffering and the health risks related to drug use and HIV. In other words, community-based harm reduction was a cornerstone of this care. In fact, these community-based efforts helped establish safety for our residents, and eventually moved the city of San Francisco to establish needle exchange programs. As the overdose prevention outreach coordinator, I think building community around overdose prevention is key if we're going to solve the substance use challenges we face in the Tenderloin. And we owe a lot to the healthcare and public health workers in the city for their work already in this area. And TNDC is committed to bolstering these efforts. On top of this, by building community, we can empower and educate folks to co-create solutions that are grounded in their lived experiences and collective wisdom. I truly believe that when we amplify community voices, we can build the long-term systems that we need to support those and address addiction in the city. So thank you very much. And next up, we have Bob Ostertag.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history here. I made a documentary movie about the early years of the ambassador in the 1970s, and Hank Wilson, the force of nature behind it all. The story actually begins before AIDS in the 1970s, when San Francisco was just becoming the gay Mecca, and dozens of people were arriving at the Greyhound station every day. Many of them very young, teenagers, gay boys, transgender people, arriving by the dozens every day with no money and nowhere to go. And so a former kindergarten teacher named Hank Wilson decided he would make a place for them to go. And he answered a classified ad in the newspaper that said the ambassador was looking for a manager. He became the manager at that point. The building did not look like this. When Hank took it over, most of the rooms didn't have doors left on them. Everything was completely trashed. Hank furnished the building with donated furniture that he found here and there, and created a space very, very different than what we have now. There were no banks supporting the ambassador at this time. In fact, there were no nonprofits supporting the ambassador at this time. This was all done out of pocket and trying to make it work. Check day was quite the thing at the ambassador. Hank would go to the bank, empty the bank account into cash, stuff the cash into his socks, and then walk back to the ambassador and cash everyone's checks, and somehow made the thing work financially without any support from anyone. It was very important to Hank that he wasn't constrained by any organization, because he wanted to make things work. He wanted to, if something didn't work, he wanted to try a new thing, and then a new thing, and then a new thing. He didn't want to ask for permission from anybody. And that's how he made it work. And then AIDS arrived. And, you know, the early days of AIDS are hard to explain to people who didn't live through it. There was a level of stigmatization that is hard to imagine. But all the other hotels in the Tenderloin would not allow a person known to have HIV to enter the hotel. And so Hank opened the doors, and this became an unfunded, seat-of-the-pants, DIY hospice for indigent people dying of AIDS. Many hundreds of people died of AIDS in this building. One day, 5 people in one day died in this building. They had memorials for them in the lobby. This was at a time when it was difficult to even get an ambulance to come to the hotel. Just making it work. Hank was basically inventing harm reduction before we even had the term harm reduction. And he did it all out of the seat of his pants. He lived in a one-room, roach-infested apartment. He didn't even own a bed. He was a very curious person, Hank Wilson. Slept on the floor, lived on nothing, and for 20 years he did this. So I'm very glad to be able to share that story. It's a story that San Francisco can be proud of. Very unique story that I think shows the heart of this city. If there was anybody I've ever known who did not want to be recognized for anything, it was Hank Wilson. He was a very, very big guy with a very, very small ego. And the running joke about my movie was that he wouldn't have wanted the movie to be made about him in the first place. But I walked into the lobby and I saw the beautiful mural painted by this wonderful artist here. And I think maybe Hank would have been okay with that, with people coming into the hotel and seeing his smiling face, welcoming them into the hotel. Okay, thank you.
I'm now pleased to introduce our mayor, London Breed. Well, first of all, let's give Brandon another round of applause. Many have tried and have failed to do Whitney Houston justice, and he definitely is one who has succeeded. It is so great to be here with each and every one of you, and I just want to start by expressing my condolences to the TNDC staff. Murillo was such an amazing person and full of life and excitement for housing justice. And I know it's a big loss to the TNDC community. And we appreciate the fact that so many of you are still rolling up your sleeves and continuing the important work that he cared so deeply about. And today is a perfect example of that. Both the ambassador and the Ritz, not the Ritz-Carlton. I know somebody probably already used that joke, but the fact is we have an important responsibility here in San Francisco to not just build new housing and be as aggressive as we can to remove the barriers on new housing construction, but we also have a responsibility for preservation because we want to ensure that no matter what happens, whether there's an earthquake or anything else, we are able to protect our existing housing stock. And by making the kinds of investments we're making today that provided an opportunity to do significant rehabilitation on over 200 units, which include, as you know, the Ambassador as well as the Ritz, as a way to protect and support our most vulnerable residents, those with challenging disabilities, and making units accessible. It was so critical that we did this work for preservation purposes. So we are grateful to be here to celebrate this milestone as a huge improvement, not just for what we did and what we made happen, but for the lives of the people that this will impact, the people who will live here and will be able to enjoy this beautiful courtyard and enjoy their units and the people that they live with. It is truly wonderful to be here. It is such an incredible blessing that these individuals will have a chance at a new start at life, but also for those who were moved temporarily and moved back, a new beginning with a new place, with new opportunity and hope for a better day. So I want to thank each and every one of you, and especially, as I said, Kate and TNDC and the entire team for the work that they do for affordable housing for so many in our various communities. Many people want us to do the job of helping people transition into housing and permanently supportive housing, but organizations like TNDC do the work. And in fact, since 2018, when I first became mayor, we've increased our permanent supportive housing stock where we provide additional support for those who need additional help. We increased that by over 50%. And that takes partners, that takes resources, that takes investment, and that takes the opportunity for us to work and support the incredible things that we know we need to do to get the job done. So it's really great to be here to celebrate such a milestone. So thank you all so much for your work, your advocacy, and making it possible for people to have a safe, affordable place to call home. Thank you. We're going to do a quick photo op and then a closing.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your comments today. This past Sunday was International Transgender Day of Visibility, which is a good reason to remind us that where we stand right now is only steps away from the riot at Compton's cafeteria, which was a turning point for trans and LGBTQ plus activism. This building and this district have always been welcoming for the most marginalized people of the city, and TNDC is a part of that. As a trans woman, I'm proud to be here right now with Katie and all the other TNDC staff that are with us today, who had the great responsibility to take care of this building and to take care of the residents of the Ambassador Hotel. I'd like to thank today's guest speakers, the residents of the Ambassador Hotel, and all the community leaders who have made this day possible and who have celebrated with us. I invite you now to make your way to our community pavilion for coffee and light refreshments. In the pavilion, you will see a mini art gallery featuring images of residents of the Ambassador Hotel, provided by documentary photographer Darcy Padilla, who spent time in this building between 1992 and 1996. Finally, if you wish to take a tour of one of the units, go talk to one of our staff at the TNDC table and they can help you with that. Thank you again for your support of TNDC.